Hello and welcome to the Voice of Todd. I'm Tom and today we're going to talk about my favourite TV show of all time, Firefly. In this episode we're going to take a look at The Message, which is episode 12 in the series, and a very emotionally charged episode that is just about, or that has just about everything you could ask for. And we'll carry on with a new video each Wednesday until we get to Serenity, the film that rounded out the main story set up here, which we are closing in on very quickly. Now these reviews are filled with spoilers, so if you haven't seen Firefly, I think you should. I really recommend it, otherwise I wouldn't be watching it and reviewing it like this, but that's entirely up to you. It truly is a masterpiece, and episodes like this really prove that to me, at least anyway, so go give it a go. But with that, let's talk about The Message. We're going to take a look at what our heroes are up to and some of my favourite moments in the episode. We do open up on a space station with a voiceover by a man claiming that alien life exists. Now, aliens aren't something we've seen in the Firefly universe before, so it would be a very interesting addition and maybe change of pace if it is true. So let's cut to Simon and Kaylee alone in a dark booth. Well, I mean, there's a tank with an alien inside it as well, but let's not let that ruin the mood. And it's not an alien, it's a deformed cow, and Simon can ruin any mood he wants, as he does here, by offending Kaylee for God knows how many times. But Zoe and Wash come and join, I'm guessing catching the tail end of their conversation. And it's great. Wash comes in, he's got his quippy lines, it's so well done. It's so well done. There's so much of this episode that I just laughed at. It's when those comic moments are written in, they're written in so well. It's something that the show does amazingly. And over the last few episodes, it really feels like this show has hit its stride. Everything is just so much tighter. Not that it's bad in the early episodes, because it isn't. So the earlier episodes are some of my favourites. Well, they're all some of my favourites. But with this episode, this was filmed later on in the process of the show being filmed, and the crew had spent clearly a lot of time together and getting used to each other. And it's episodes like last week and this week where they're really just playing with each other in such a great way. It works so well. And it's moments like that, moments where the crew are just interacting with each other. Kaylee and Simon, Wash, Zoe and Simon. And then we get one of Inara and Mal walking through the space station talking about fencing the Lassiter laser pistol from last week, which Mal is really struggling to find a fence and get rid of. Inara has offered to help, but in his strange, noble way, Mal doesn't want her to in case it hurts her career as a companion. I mean, he doesn't like the fact that she's a companion, and he will put her down on it every chance he gets. But he doesn't want it to hurt her job or the ability for her to do her job. So there's a weird nobility which I think surrounds the character, and Fillion plays with so well. But it's time to collect the crew's mail, and Kaylee joins Inara, another one of these little moments. They're so sweet when they're together. There's this sisterly relationship that they have, and whenever they interact it's clear that it's there. And yet again, it's such a sweet moment. I mean, the interactions at this point, and for the most part they always have, but the interactions just feel so honest and organic, and that's one of the many reasons that I love this show. But like I say, we have mail. Jane has a box from his mother containing a note that he struggles to read and a very cunning bobble hat that she's handmade him. This is again one of those quotes from Firefly that most people will know. There's so many of them in this episode alone, let alone this series. It's just... they're just enjoying. I'm sure the writers had just great fun writing this. But Mal and Zoe have a crate too. It's addressed to both of them. And inside is Private Tracy Smith. Well, his corpse, anyway. Cut to a flashback of the Battle of Dukang. Tracy is being a general waste of space as a soldier, and Zoe saves his life in as brutal a way as you'd expect from our warrior woman. They have a little chat about how the battle's going, and it's quite clear that Tracy, he doesn't really think about things all that much, and Zoe enlightens him on stealth and how it's best to not let the enemy know where you are. Enter Mal, screaming and firing blindly as he runs into the ruins that they're situated in. Typical Mal, even earlier in, this is 7 years before. And he's just enjoying himself. He's causing chaos. It's just brilliant. Yes, this is still very much like the first episode of the series, or the first episode that we've covered. He's just different in these flashbacks. He's a little bit more open. He's a little bit more energetic. He's not been crushed yet. But I just love this. An idea of a prequel with just the three of them in a unit and going through the War of Independence. I just love that idea. I think that this works really well. This is a really well done flashback. With Mal's just so full of himself and full of life, with Zoe being the exact opposite, and let's be honest, the better tactician. She always has been. But it's moments like this that we see Zoe, I guess, in her element. And we don't get many of them. But the dialogue in this entire episode is brilliant, but here it's great. And I say this every video, but this is one of the best written shows, I think, that there ever has been. But back to the episode. When the crew depart, Mal and Zoe close up the crate and pick it up to carry it back to Serenity. Buck instantly jumps in to help, as a sign of respect from the preacher. Zoe tells him that they have it. Both Mal and Zoe doing this alone, the only people who knew Private Tracy, and a sign of respect for their fallen comrade. Anyway, this week's job is a much more personal one. Take Tracy's body home to his family on St. Albans so he can rest, as per his request found on a recorded message on his body that was in his hands, I think. But the feds are hot on our heroes' heels. And it's never easy for our heroes to get a break, is it? Now, the first half of this episode is much more somber. There's moments like the crew interactions, quite a bit of humour in these, but then as we realise that what's in the crate and moving on from that point, it does take that somber turn. There's a moment where Simon goes to talk to Kaylee after, well, being Simon, really. And she's just sat in her bunk listening to the recorded message. So Simon just walks away and leaves her to it. Buck is standing in silence over the coffin, offering a prayer. And Jane is in the cargo bay as well, just working out. Another great interaction between Jane and Buck. We're really starting to see more of Jane as a human rather than just being the brutish comic relief that he is. And he still is the comic relief. Not as much, I would say, but we've really gotten, since his betrayal, we've really gotten so much more from Jane's character, and we've gotten, I suppose, seeing him effectively at his worst within the crew. He's trying to build himself back up, and the conversation that they have with Jane, seeing a guy that he hasn't killed, giving him that energy and the desire to work out, to do stuff, to keep moving, to appreciate what he has, it's so deep and so well thought out for a character like Jane, but it's just these little moments that give us a nice glimpse into his character that we don't really get quite often. But it works really well. And there's another one with Mal and Zoe sharing a story about Tracy and their time in the war to Inara in the galley. And it's a really well done, powerful scene, just reminiscing about the life of the man that they've just been mailed the body to. But it just shows that respect that they had for this character who we, the viewers, have never met, we've never heard of. But this act of remembrance and this story, I think, gives us as outsiders the chance to connect with this character who really is just a stiff in a box. We've never met him, but through this, this story with our heroes, we really get that. The connection that they had to him, so we feel something, there's that slight connection there. That's how good storytelling works. But out of nowhere, Serenity is rocked by an explosion. Now this is the feds, who were tipped off by the postmaster after being quite aggressive. They want Mal's cargo. They have opened fire on Serenity. Warning shot, there's no damage. But they want what's theirs. Mal instantly thinks that it's the Laster pistol, but they soon figure out that they mean Tracy. So it's time to do a proper search of the crate, the coffin, and Simon to do an autopsy. And with the first cut of the autopsy, Tracy wakes up screaming. Turns out that Tracy got into some bad business, and he's transporting human organs inside his body. Now, I don't really understand how this works. There's a reference to his organs being scooped out and replaced with whatever is now inside him. His heart and all of his other organs seem to be working faster. I don't know, but you get the feeling that whatever has happened, where he's headed and the job that he's been paid to do will result in his death. And that's why he's running. Like I say, I didn't really fully grasp this part, but there is a reference to Ariel, which is I think episode 9, where we did our big hospital heist. And it feels like there could have been some slight intersection of the time that the crew were there and the time that Tracy was there. I don't know how close, but it's just a nice little nod to the previous episode, I think. I don't think it's anything more than that, but it sort of works for me. But the feds want him, but Mal is going to help Tracy, right? Surely. During the conversation, the medbay, Kaylee comes in. And this is... You could argue that this is quite strained, but Tracy and Kaylee, they lock eyes. There's this little connection between them. Kaylee's already been moved by his words on the recording. And she takes Tracy under her wing a little bit. With them being shot at, she takes Tracy to her bunk and they get a little bit closer. They have a moment. She's filling Tracy in on the crew, Zoe being married, Mal, and all these little different aspects. And it really does work for me. Yes, it's rushed, potentially, but we know that Kaylee has an eye for pretty boys and she falls pretty fast. And I get the feeling that a big part of this is that she's still mad at Simon for messing up every conversation that they've had. But anyway, on to our heroes and getting out of this situation. Mal, Zoe, Wash and Buck are all on the bridge. They're deciding what to do and eventually they try running. They hide in a snowy cave on St. Albans, which looks like an ice planet. It's basically Hoth, but probably slightly easier to live on. But the feds aren't going to give up and they are dropping bombs in the vicinity of this cavern and where Serenity's safe. It's messing with Serenity's electronics, and eventually if one of those things lands on top of the cavern, it could cause a cave-in, and that's never going to be good. So Buck comes up with the only plan and course of action that they have, really, and that's to turn Tracy in. Tracy overhears this, and I think he goes into more panic mode than just being malicious. Tracy's a bit simple. Let's put it that way. And he grabs a pistol and tries to take over the bridge. Wash gets shot. He gets clipped by a bullet that Tracy fires, and Zoe, no hesitation, puts a bullet in Tracy's chest. Point blank. Pretty much point blank. Tracy retreats to, I suppose he's heading to the gangway. He's going to the shuttles to try and get away. He grabs Kaylee on the way. So now Kaylee is caught up in this. Kaylee has no clue what's going on. And Tracy is just trying to tell her that, she's on his side and everybody else has turned on him, and he's playing that woe is me card. But he doesn't get through. And on the gangway between the two shuttle paths in the cargo bay, Mal catches up to him, pistol drawn, waiting for a clean shot. Tracy is just spitting venom at this point. He's tearing into Mal and Zoe. He's calling them saps. He brings up Mal's reputation. Now, we know from previous episodes and interactions with Niska that Mal has a reputation in certain circles. And I'd never really thought about this in any other wider context, but it does seem that Mal has quite the legend forming around him and his exploits. This is something that comes into play with the comics later on. Not going to go into it, but I never really clicked that was set up here in the show. And, he is our hero. He is, as far as the viewers, I would say, he's the main focus of this series. But it does seem that the galaxy maybe isn't quite as big as we were thinking, and word travels fast. We know as humans that word gets around. And Mal, I get the vibe that he has this kind of modern day Robin Hood element to this legend, which is probably again me just looking far too much into it, but I thought it was really interesting, just one of these little things that comes up. But anyway, Jane causes a distraction. He cocks a shotgun and Tracy turns to shoot him, but he opens himself up to Mal, who puts a round clean through his chest. And the feds show up. Wash has contacted them as per Buck's plan, and they agree to the deal. But Tracy is down. They're all mostly still on the gangway. Tracy is down, bleeding. He's dying. Mal pistol trained at the cargo bay doors, Jane flanking one side, Zoe on the other, and Buck in the middle talking to the feds, who have only taken a step into Serenity. Buck leads the conversation. And this is another one of those moments from Buck that he knows stuff. Because he's worked out that the feds are working on their own. They haven't contacted any of the other, police or Alliance cruisers or facilities in the area, and they're well outside their jurisdiction. So he's surmised correctly that these feds are part of this smuggling ring of human organs that Tracy is part of. And Buck is happy to point out that they have no jurisdiction and nobody would bat an eyelid if Mal and Jane and Zoe put them down. Buck there's just so much there that you could do with this character if we got more of this show. There's so much in Buck that you can explore. He's such a great character. But the feds, taking all this in and seeing Tracy dying, they leave empty-handed, which was always the plan. Just Tracy didn't know and went all crazy and got shot. But in a call to the flashback that we saw at the start of the episode, Mal and Zoe comfort, not confront. They've already done that bit. They comfort their fallen comrade, and they promise to deliver his body home to his family. When you can't run, you crawl. When you can't do that, you find someone to carry you. Wonderful. Just so powerful, just thinking about it. It's so true. So true. But the final scene of the episode is Tracy in his coffin, being reunited with his family to be laid to rest. There's a shot of Kaylee and all the crew in the snow, wrapped up warm. Mal's got his brown coat on. Wash has a jumper, which probably wouldn't keep him warm, but everybody's wrapped up. And Kaylee reaches for Simon's hand as Tracy's family are grieving and taking in what's happened. There is a shot of Mal looking back. I like to think that it's over the crew, lost in thought. It's such a powerful scene. The music, very somber. There's just this sadness in the crew that feels real, and yes, a lot of it is because they're a very talented bunch of people. But this episode has extra weight for them and, now, this many years on, the wider Firefly fanbase, because this was the episode that they were filming when they learned Firefly had been cancelled. There's so much weight here. This episode, this scene, is effectively the end of Firefly. At least to everybody who was there at the time. Now, this episode for me really does have just about everything, and I think as a fan I'm adding quite a lot into that because it is a huge moment in the show's history. This is also the episode that Fox aired last in the original run, and honestly it does serve up as an ending of sorts. There's still so much story to be told within everything that was set up on the show alone, but if this was all we got, if this episode 12 is where it ended, I mean, it's such a powerful scene. It really works. And there is that feeling of sadness, of loss, that the cancellation kind of feels like. That might be a little over the top, but who knows what we could have got if Firefly had been allowed to continue. Now, there's many reasons why it would have been cancelled, but with the 14 episodes that we have, it's perfect. If you continued that, it might be worse. It might have lost the shine and the charm, and as people move on to different things, we lose crew members, the story gets old. Who knows? I like to think on the positive, and that this could have been one of the greatest sci-fi shows ever written if it had been allowed to continue. I mean, it is, to me, it is now, but I think that if it had been allowed to get season 2, season 3, the audience would have grown, more people would have connected to it, and it could have been as big as some of the sci-fi greats like Battlestar Galactica, like Star Trek. But that's my biased thinking, I guess. But anyway, this isn't the end for us, or the season that we have in its entirety now, as you would watch it at home. Because we still have 2 more episodes, and we have Serenity, the film. But that nicely brings us to episode 13, Heart of Gold, which we'll cover next Wednesday. This episode is another one of my favourites, and it has lots of action. It has companions, which is always nice, and an antagonist that is a real asshole and very easy to hate. But if you want to see more of me, you can find me on Twitch. We're still playing Mass Effect 3, hoping to get that finished off this week, technical issues permitting. There has been a bit of a change of plan with the content that I'm going to be making in the future though, so keep an eye out if you're interested for more information on that. I'm hopefully putting together a video, if not tomorrow, it'll be out Friday, about what I'm planning to do with this channel and the live streams and things. As always, if you've enjoyed this or any of my other content, please do hit that subscribe button, hit a like, drop a comment, all the good stuff. I love talking to you, anybody that watches this. I love discussing Firefly as well. But, all that stuff really does help the channel grow, and, YouTube stuff. You guys hear it all the time from most creators, I bet. But that's really where I'm going to leave this one. This is such a powerful episode that I thoroughly enjoyed it. It brightened up my day, even though it is very somber. But that's what great TV does, isn't it? It leaves a lasting impression. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.